The members heard a noise from Jimin's room, and found Jungkook inside with him. The crash was so loud it cut the dorm's midnight silence like a blade. "Jimin, don't move," a voice gasped from behind the locked door. For a moment, the hall froze. Taehyung stopped halfway through his yawn. Namjoon lowered the glass of water in his hand. Hoseok turned sharply, eyes wide. The sound didn't just resemble a fallen object, there was strain in it, a heavy thud followed by a sharp intake of breath. Something, or someone, had hit the floor. Yoongi reached the door first. "Jimin," he called out, firm but controlled. No answer. The air in the hallway thickened with unease. It wasn't unusual for Jimin to move quietly around the dorm late at night, unable to sleep, humming to himself or stretching. But a noise like **, and the voice inside didn't sound like his. Without waiting for permission, Namjoon twisted the handle. Locked. Taehyung stepped back, throat tightening. He had heard that voice. It sounded strained, panicked, almost desperate. It sounded like Jungkook. Before anyone could process the implication, the door abruptly unlocked from the inside. A shadow moved behind it, uncertain, unsteady. Then the door opened just wide enough to reveal Jungkook standing there, chest rising and falling rapidly, sweat dampening the strands of hair clinging to his face. Light spilled from the dim lamp inside the room, casting a warm but eerie glow across his expression. His pupils were wide, his jaw tight as if he had been holding in a scream for too long. Behind him, barely visible through the partially opened door, Jimin sat on the floor with his back against the bed frame, his breathing uneven and his hands trembling as if he had just been pulled back from the edge of something unseen. No one moved. The hallway held its breath. Jungkook swallowed hard. "Don't, come in." But Namjoon pushed the door open anyway. Inside, the room looked untouched except for one thing. Jimin's mirror, thick-framed and heavy, had fallen forward, its glass cracked like ice after a stone had been thrown at it. The pieces glittered across the floor like scattered stars. The lamp buzzed faintly, its light flickering as if uncertain it should stay on. Jimin lifted his head slowly, inhaling shakily. His eyes, normally bright with warmth, were filled with something darker: shock, fear, confusion, maybe all at once. And something else, something that made Jungkook tense when the others stepped closer. Hoseok crouched next to him. "Jiminai, what happened?" Jimin opened his mouth, but no words came out. Jungkook took a sharp step forward, his hand instinctively moving between Jimin and the others, as if shielding him from something they couldn't yet see. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His posture said everything. Something had happened before they arrived. Something he didn't want them involved in. Namjoon's gaze drifted between the shattered mirror, Jimin's trembling hands, and Jungkook's protective stance. His voice lowered. "Jungkook, talk to us." But Jungkook's jaw flexed. His shoulders tightened. A storm brewed behind his eyes, a mix of defiance and panic, like someone cornered with no good choices left. He wasn't just shaken, he was afraid. Jimin's breath wavered as he finally found his voice. It was soft, almost swallowed by the room's heavy silence. It wasn't him. Jungkook turned sharply. "Jimin," but Jimin continued, staring at the cracked glass. "I saw something," he whispered. In the reflection. Yoongi's eyebrows drew together. "Something? Or someone?" Jimin didn't answer. His fingers curled tightly around the hem of his shirt as if grounding himself. A cold draft slipped through the room even though the windows were closed. Jungkook exhaled, shaky and frustrated. "He's not making sense. He hasn't been sleeping. That's not it," Jimin cut in, his voice trembling now. "You heard it too. You felt it." The members turned to Jungkook. He froze. A muscle twitched in his jaw. His eyes flicked toward the fallen mirror. Yoongi stepped closer. "Jungkook, what exactly did you feel?" Under the dim lamplight, Jungkook's expression cracked for a fraction of a second. Just enough to show the truth he was trying desperately to hide. It felt like his voice broke off. He pinched the bridge of his nose, exhaling hard. "Like someone else was in the room with us." The hallway behind them creaked as if reacting. No one dared speak. Jungkook's voice dropped lower, uncertain. "But there was no one." Jimin's whisper sliced through the air. "There was." Jungkook turned instantly, warning in his tone. "Jimin." But Jimin pushed himself to his feet, wobbling slightly. "I saw someone standing behind me. In the mirror. Right before it fell." Hoseok's breath caught. Taehyung shivered despite the warm room. Namjoon scanned the shadows. You're both certain there was no one inside? No one at all? Jungkook hesitated before answering. I checked. Twice. But his eyes darted toward the corner of the room near the wardrobe as if checking again. Subconsciously, unwillingly, Jimin pressed a hand to his chest. It felt cold. Like someone breathed down my neck. Jungkook turned sharply to him. Jimin, stop. You're scaring them. But the truth was written in the way Jungkook's hands shook. He had been scared too. Namjoon's tone softened, though tension laced every word. Then why were you in here with him? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. A tense beat passed. Jimin's eyes glimmered with vulnerability. Because I asked him to stay. The members froze again. Jungkook shut his eyes briefly as if bracing himself. Jimin continued, quiet but firm. Because I haven't been, okay. And there it was, the crack in the facade. Jimin's insomnia. The shadows under his eyes. The strange tension that had followed him for days. The way he flinched at certain reflections. It all connected now. Taehyung whispered, Jimin, why didn't you tell us? Jimin's voice softened into something raw and trembling. Because I didn't want any of you to think I was losing my mind. Jungkook finally spoke, his voice low and steady despite his shaken state. He woke me up an hour ago. Said he couldn't breathe. Said he was seeing things. I stayed with him because he asked. Yoongi crouched again, scanning Jimin's posture, eyes, the trembling in his shoulders. And the mirror? Jungkook swallowed hard. It fell on its own. Something flickered in the room's shadows, too subtle to be anything real, but the tension made every flicker suspicious. Namjoon exhaled slowly. We'll figure this out. But none of you are sleeping alone tonight. Jimin lowered his head, exhaustion washing over him. Jungkook touched his shoulder gently, steadying him, but then a soft crack echoed behind them. A sound like a fingernail tapping glass. Everyone whipped around. The cracked mirror, motionless seconds ago, now had a fresh fracture spreading across its reflective surface, splintering outward like a spiderweb. Jimin's breath hitched. Jungkook instinctively pulled him back, and no one moved. And even though no one spoke the thought aloud, every member felt the same cold truth settle over them like a weight. Whatever had been in that room might still be there. The dorm felt different the moment the others left Jimin's room. The hallway lights hummed faintly, casting long shadows across the wooden floor, and every small sound felt amplified, as if the silence itself was listening. Jungkook shut the door gently, testing it twice to make sure it was locked. His movements were unusually careful, almost ritualistic. Jimin watched him from the bed, knees drawn close to his chest, fingers worrying the edge of his blanket. You're still shaking, Jungkook murmured as he walked toward him. So are you, Jimin replied, voice thin but trying to sound light. Jungkook didn't deny it. He sat beside him, close enough that Jimin felt the warmth of him, grounding and steady. But Jungkook's breathing was uneven, his eyes restless as they scanned the corners of the room again and again. Stop looking around like that, Jimin whispered. You're making me more nervous. I can't help it. Jungkook dragged a hand through his hair. That sound, the mirror, your face when it fell. I've never seen you look like that. Jimin lowered his gaze. I didn't want you to see me like that. And there it was, raw, vulnerable, almost too honest. Jungkook leaned slightly closer. Then why did you call me? Out of everyone? Jimin hesitated, jaw tightening as if the truth itself embarrassed him. Because, his voice cracked. When I'm scared, you're the only one I think of. Jungkook froze, the air between them swelled with a heat that wasn't romantic. It was the heat of closeness, of history, of trust so intense it hurt. Jungkook's lips parted as if to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Instead, he exhaled shakily, staring down at his hands. Jimin, he said softly, you can't say things like that without warning me. I wasn't trying to make it dramatic, Jimin replied, his tone sharp but trembling. I just needed you. I needed you here because I thought, he swallowed. I thought something was going to happen to me. Jungkook's chest tightened. Nothing's going to happen to you. Not while I'm here. Jimin lifted his head, eyes reflecting a storm of fear and something deeper. But you felt it too. Don't deny it. Jungkook's jaw clenched. He had been avoiding the topic ever since the others left. I don't know what I felt. That's a lie. Jungkook looked away. I don't want you to spiral more than you already have. I'm not spiraling, Jimin snapped. I'm telling you something was in this room. The tension thickened instantly, hot, uncomfortable, charged. Jungkook's breathing hitched as he struggled to stay calm. Then explain to me why I felt someone behind me. Jimin's voice grew louder. Why I felt fingers brushing my neck. Why you, he stopped, brows furrowing. Jungkook, when you ran in here, you said who's in here, before you even saw me. Jungkook flinched. Jimin stared at him, stunned. You did feel it? Jungkook looked cornered, eyes wide, body stiff, breath trembling. I thought someone pushed the door. I heard footsteps. He stopped abruptly. You heard what? Jimin demanded, heart pounding. Jungkook swallowed, throat working. I heard someone whispering your name. Jimin felt his blood run cold, but Jungkook looked even worse, like he had just admitted something he had been desperately hiding. Why didn't you tell the others? Jimin whispered, because I didn't want them to think you were imagining things. That's not it. Jimin leaned closer. You didn't want them to think you were imagining things. For a moment, Jungkook looked at him with a rawness Jimin had never seen, fear mixed with shame. I'm not crazy, Jungkook whispered. I never said you were. But I keep hearing things at night. Jungkook rubbed his thumb anxiously against his palm. Footsteps. Quiet breathing. Like someone's walking behind me when I'm alone. Jimin's heart twisted. Why didn't you tell me? Because you already had enough on your plate, Jungkook muttered. You've been exhausted. Distracted. I didn't want to scare you more. Keeping secrets scares me more, Jimin shot back. Jungkook blinked hard, like the words hit deeper than he expected. Jimin's voice softened again. Kook, look at me. Jungkook lifted his gaze, and something inside Jimin cracked. Jungkook looked so young in that moment, eyes wide, shoulders tense, vulnerability carved into every line of his expression. You're allowed to be scared, Jimin whispered. Jungkook's breath wavered. Not when you're sitting here trembling. I'm not trembling anymore. Yes, you are. Jungkook reached out without thinking, his hand brushing Jimin's wrist. Jimin's breath caught, a sharp intake of surprise, but he didn't pull away. See? Jungkook murmured. You're shaking. Jimin looked down at their hands, at the warmth of Jungkook's fingers wrapped so gently around his wrist. It was grounding. It was real. It made the cold that had been clinging to him gradually fade. Stay tonight, Jimin said quietly. Not because I'm scared. But because I don't want to be alone with my thoughts. Jungkook froze again, caught off guard by the honesty. I will, he said finally. But tell me everything. Don't hide from me. Jimin nodded slowly. I started seeing things a week ago. At first, shadows. Shapes that didn't match my movements. Then, reflections that weren't mine. Jungkook inhaled sharply. Reflections. In the practice studio mirror. In the van window. And tonight, before the mirror fell, I saw someone standing behind me. Someone, Jimin's voice cracked. Someone who wasn't you. Jungkook tightened his grip on Jimin's wrist, not painfully, but protectively. Why didn't you tell anyone? He asked. Because I didn't trust my own mind. Jimin looked up, eyes damp. But when it happened tonight, when the mirror cracked while you were right in front of me, that's when I knew it wasn't just in my head. Jungkook's breath shuddered. Jimin, you should have told me sooner. I didn't want you to think I was weak. Jungkook stared at him intensely, almost angrily. You think weakness is what I see when I look at you. Jimin's heart pounded. Jungkook leaned in, voice low and heated. You could be terrified, confused, breaking apart, and I'd still choose to stand next to you. Jimin swallowed hard. Why? Jungkook was silent, too silent, his jaw flexed. His fingers tightened around Jimin's wrist. His breathing turned uneven again, this time not from fear but from the weight of something he wouldn't say. Jimin whispered, Jungkook, what aren't you telling me? Jungkook closed his eyes. If I tell you, everything changes. Then let it change. Jungkook opened his eyes slowly, the intensity in them almost unbearable. I stayed tonight because I was scared something would happen to you. But that's not the only reason. Then what is it? Jungkook exhaled shakily, voice dropping to a whisper. I don't know how to walk away from you anymore. The room fell silent. Jimin's breath caught. His chest tightened, but not from fear. Jungkook, he breathed. Before either of them could say anything else, a soft creaking sound echoed from the wardrobe. Slow. Deliberate. Like fingers dragging across the wooden door, both of them froze. Jimin's hand instinctively reached for Jungkook's. Jungkook grabbed it without hesitation. And for the first time that night, neither of them tried to deny what they felt, that something in the room was listening. The creaking sound from the wardrobe stretched through the silence like a blade dragged slowly across wood. It was so faint, so deliberate, that both Jungkook and Jimin felt the hairs on their arms rise. Jungkook's grip on Jimin's hand tightened instantly. His jaw clenched, his body shifting just slightly forward as if instinctively placing himself between Jimin and whatever might be inside that wardrobe. The lamp on the desk flickered once, twice, casting the room into a stuttering dance of light and shadow. Jimin's breath shook. Did you hear that? I'm not ignoring it this time, Jungkook whispered, voice low and tense. The wardrobe door trembled. Not enough to fully move, but enough to let them know it was no accident. Jimin scooted closer to Jungkook unconsciously, shoulders brushing. Jungkook didn't move away. If anything, he leaned in, steady, protective. Another soft sound came from within, like someone shifting their weight. Jungkook stood abruptly. Stay behind me. Jimin grabbed his wrist. Don't open it. We can't ignore it, Jimin. You opened my room door earlier and look where we are now, Jimin argued desperately. What if it's just the house settling? Or the air? Jungkook said, though there was no belief in his voice. It isn't. Jimin's voice cracked on the last word. Jungkook turned to him, his expression softening even while terror knotted the muscles in his shoulders. Then came another sound, different this time. A faint, barely there whisper, but unmistakably real. It came from inside the wardrobe, and it said Jimin's name. Jimin recoiled instantly, breath catching painfully in his throat. Jungkook grabbed him, pulling him close by instinct alone, his other hand reaching blindly toward the bedside table for something, anything, to defend them. The whisper came again, softer, like breath against the wood. Jungkook froze, his voice a trembling whisper. You heard that too, right? Jimin nodded, unable to speak, fingers curling tightly around Jungkook's shirt. The wardrobe door trembled again, and Jimin finally broke. Kook, don't open it. Don't. His voice wasn't just afraid, it was pleading. Not tonight. Please. I can't. Hearing Jimin's voice shake like that did something to Jungkook, something visceral and protective. He abandoned the idea of confronting whatever was inside and instead turned to Jimin, cupping the back of his neck gently, grounding him. Okay, Jungkook whispered. Then we won't open it. Jimin's breath trembled against Jungkook's chest as he sagged forward, and Jungkook instinctively wrapped an arm around him. Not romantic, just human. Desperate. Raw. I'm losing it, Jimin whispered. I'm actually losing it. No, Jungkook said firmly, pulling him even closer. You're not. Something is happening and we're going to figure it out. What if I'm imagining all of this? What if you're hearing things because I'm affecting you? Jungkook let out a frustrated breath, forehead pressing briefly against Jimin's hair. Stop thinking everything is your fault. You're not that powerful. The wardrobe creaked again, as if reacting. Jimin flinched. Jungkook's hold tightened. I'm not letting anything touch you, Jungkook murmured, his voice trembling but resolute. Not something real. Not something imagined. Not anything. Jimin drew back slightly, enough to look at him. His eyes glistened with fear and something deeper, an emotion he didn't dare name yet. But before Jungkook could say anything else, the lamp flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness for one horrifying second. In that darkness, the wardrobe door clicked open. A soft exhale, like someone standing inches away, brushed past Jimin's ear. Jimin gasped, stumbling backward. The lamp snapped back on. The wardrobe door was open by less than an inch. Just a sliver, but enough. Jungkook's breath caught. His body stiffening like a bowstring pulled too tight. Stay close, he said under his breath. Jimin didn't hesitate. He moved so close their shoulders pressed together, both of them staring at that tiny opening like it was a doorway into something they weren't ready to face. Jungkook stepped slowly toward it. Not to open it, but to shut it. The wardrobe door moved before his hand even reached it. It shut itself hard. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Jimin jumped so violently he nearly fell, but Jungkook caught him by the waist, steadying him. Jimin's hands clutched at Jungkook's shoulders, trembling so badly that Jungkook could feel the shakes through his clothes. Jungkook's voice shook. I'm calling Namjoon. No, Jimin said immediately, grip tightening. If you call the others, they'll think we're crazy. I don't care. I do. Jimin looked up, eyes wide, desperate. Kook, if they start treating me differently, if they start treating us differently. The meaning of that hung heavy between them. Jungkook swallowed, chest heaving. Jimin, something is here. This isn't just you not sleeping. I know, Jimin whispered. But if the others panic, it gets worse. They'll separate us. They'll assume we're unstable. They might even think that we're making it up together, Jungkook finished quietly. Or that we're influencing each other. The room felt suddenly smaller, hotter, more intimate. The tension twisted into something even more complicated, fear mingling with the kind of emotional closeness they'd never dared confront. Jimin looked away. We can't afford that. Jungkook closed his eyes briefly, breathing hard. Then what do you want us to do? Stay with me, Jimin whispered. Just stay. Until morning. Until I know the sun is real and not something I imagined. Jungkook exhaled shakily, nodding. Okay. Jimin sat on the bed, pulling his knees up, arms wrapped around them. Jungkook sat beside him, but Jimin leaned into him before he could even settle. His head pressed against Jungkook's shoulder, breath shaky but warm. Jungkook stilled, then slowly relaxed into the contact. Minutes passed in silence, but neither of them spoke about the wardrobe. Or the whisper. Or the truth that Jungkook had almost admitted earlier. Instead, Jungkook broke the quiet with something unexpected. Jimin, I need you to tell me the real reason you called me tonight. The truth. Not the version you think I want to hear. Jimin tensed. Jungkook continued quietly, voice heavy and serious. You said I was the only one you thought of. But there's something you didn't say. Something you're holding back. Jimin's pulse pounded so loudly he was sure Jungkook could feel it. He closed his eyes. Because I trust you, he whispered. I already knew that. Jimin swallowed. Hard. Because I feel safe with you. I knew that too. Jimin inhaled shakily. Because you're the only one who doesn't look away when I fall apart. Jungkook's breath hitched. Jimin. And because, Jimin's voice trembled. When the mirror cracked, the first thing I thought wasn't I hope it's not a ghost. It was. I hope Jungkook gets here. Jungkook turned to him slowly, eyes shining with something intense, overwhelming, and impossible to hide, and then he said the one thing Jimin never expected to hear. Do you want to know the truth? Jungkook whispered. Jimin nodded, breath held. I ran here, Jungkook said. Not because you called me, but because I've been waiting for an excuse to be near you. The room felt suddenly too small, too warm, too heavy with unspoken things. Jimin's eyes widened. You mean? Before he could finish, something thudded softly inside the wardrobe. Both of them stiffened instantly, the temperature dropped, and Jimin whispered the only truth both of them could accept: it's not done with us yet. The thud inside the wardrobe was soft, too soft, almost polite, but in the quiet of Jimin's room, it echoed like a heartbeat. Jungkook's jaw locked instantly, his hand moved from the bed to Jimin's wrist, gripping it with fierce, wordless instinct. Jimin didn't pull away. He didn't even breathe. Another thud followed. A slow scrape. Something shifting its position deliberately, like it wanted them to hear it. Like it wanted them to know it was still there. Kook, Jimin whispered, voice thin. Why does it feel like it's waiting for us? Jungkook swallowed hard. Because it is. The lamp flickered again, casting the room into a jittering whirl of light and shadow. Jimin forced himself to look away from the wardrobe and turned instead toward Jungkook, whose eyes were darker than fear, something raw flickering beneath the surface. Determination. Panic. Something unspoken. Kook, Jimin whispered, don't leave me. I'm not going anywhere, Jungkook said immediately, voice firm even though it trembled at the edges. Not for 1 second. A cold draft swept across the room even though the windows were closed. Jungkook stood slowly, still holding Jimin's wrist, pulling him up with him. Don't go near it, Jimin said quickly. I'm not. Jungkook's voice was low and steady, but his breathing betrayed him. But we need to know if it's really. Something knocked on the inside of the wardrobe door. 3 short taps. Jimin nearly collapsed back onto the bed, gripping Jungkook's arm so tightly his nails dug into Jungkook's skin. "I'm calling someone," Jungkook whispered. "No." Jimin's voice broke. "Kook, if the others find out, it doesn't matter." "It does," Jimin shot back, eyes wide. "If the others come in and find us like this, if they hear what we heard, if they see how close we are." Jungkook froze. Not because of the spirit, but because of the implication. "Jimin," Jungkook's voice softened, breaking in the center. "Is that what you're afraid of? How they'll look at us?" "More than whatever's inside that wardrobe," Jimin admitted with a painful honesty. Jungkook's chest tightened. He stepped closer, one hand rising slowly to touch Jimin's cheek, but he stopped centimeters before contact, fingers hovering near his skin. "You think they'd question us?" "I think," Jimin whispered, voice trembling, "they'd finally see what we've been trying to hide." The words hung between them like a fragile thread pulled too tight. Jungkook's breathing hitched. "What are we hiding?" he asked quietly. Jimin parted his lips, but before he could speak, the lamp exploded. A sharp pop, glass scattering across the floor, darkness swallowing everything whole. Jimin screamed. Jungkook grabbed him instantly, arms wrapping around him, shielding him from the glass shards. Jimin pressed his face into Jungkook's chest, trembling violently. The darkness wasn't silence. It pulsed. It breathed. It felt alive, and then, clear as if whispered next to their ears, a voice said, "Liar." Jimin jerked as though struck. Jungkook's arms tightened convulsively around him. "Who are you?" Jungkook demanded into the darkness. "What do you want from him?" A soft laugh answered. "Somewhere near the wardrobe. Then near the bed. Then behind them. It was all around them." Jimin buried his face deeper into Jungkook's shirt. "Don't let go," he whispered, shaking. "I won't." The air shifted like someone walking past them. Jimin felt the brush of something cold against his ankle. He gasped and clutched Jungkook even tighter. "Kook, please, please don't let go." "Jimin, I'm right here," Jungkook said, voice low, steady, almost angry. "Nothing is touching you unless it goes through me." The darkness trembled with another whisper. "Why are you afraid to tell him?" Jimin froze. Jungkook felt him stiffen. "Jimin," he whispered. "What is it?" The voice clicked its tongue, amused. "He knows." "Stop," Jimin shouted into the dark. "Stop talking." The laughter faded, then the lamp flickered back to life, dim and unstable, but enough to light the room with a trembling glow. The wardrobe door was wide open, nothing was inside, nothing visible. Jungkook slowly turned to Jimin. "What was it talking about?" Jimin shook his head rapidly. "I don't know." "You're lying," Jungkook whispered. Jimin flinched. Jimin." Jungkook stepped closer, not angry, devastated. "Tell me." Jimin's breathing grew ragged. "I don't want to ruin this." "Ruin what?" "You and me," Jimin whispered. Jungkook froze. A muscle in his jaw twitched. His eyes softened as he reached out, slowly this time, gently cupping the back of Jimin's head and guiding his forehead against his own. "You can't ruin something I've already chosen," Jungkook said quietly, breath barely a whisper between them. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Not from fear, not from the others, not from you." Jimin's voice was thin. "But if I say the truth, then say it," Jungkook whispered, closing the space between them until his breath warmed Jimin's skin. "Even if it scares you. Even if it scares me." Jimin's eyes glistened. His lips parted. But before the words could leave him, the wardrobe door slammed shut again. Both of them jolted apart. A loud, sharp crack split through the air as a long fissure ripped down the center of the wardrobe's wooden frame, splintering violently as if something inside had clawed at it. Jungkook grabbed Jimin's hand and pulled him to the bed. "We're leaving this room. Now." Jimin nodded, breath shaking. "Okay." But as Jungkook reached for the doorknob, he froze. "What's wrong?" Jimin whispered, panicked. Jungkook swallowed. The doorknob was ice cold. Not normal cold, impossible cold. "Kook?" Jimin whispered again. Jungkook turned slowly, dread thick in his eyes. "It doesn't want us to leave." Jimin felt his legs weaken. Jungkook stepped back toward him, lifting Jimin's chin so their eyes met. His voice was strong again, trembling but resolute. "I don't care what it wants," Jungkook said. "I'm getting you out of this room." "But how?" Jungkook exhaled, jaw set. "We'll break the door if we have to." Before Jimin could respond, a gust of icy wind blew through the room, extinguishing the lamp and plunging them back into darkness. And from that suffocating dark, a whisper came, not mocking, not amused, but hungry. "You can't leave me yet." "Jimin." Jimin pressed himself against Jungkook, heart racing, his breath breaking, and for a moment, just one terrifying moment, Jungkook felt something grip his ankle. Not human, not friendly, and not letting go. The wind outside rattled the windows as if urging the night to hurry, but inside Jimin's room the silence was thick enough to feel. Jungkook stood by the edge of the bed, his breath uneven, his eyes red from everything they had said and everything they had finally stopped running from. Jimin sat across from him, hands clasped tightly, as though holding himself together before he shattered again. "You can't disappear every time something scares you," Jimin said quietly, voice hoarse. "Not from me. Not anymore." Jungkook closed his eyes as if the words struck too close. "I wasn't disappearing," he whispered. "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" Jimin's voice cracked. "From the truth. From your own feelings." He shook his head, a bitter, sad smile tugging at his lips. "You think silence doesn't hurt?" Jungkook stepped closer. The floor creaked beneath him, a soft apology. "It hurts me too." For a moment Jimin didn't move. He just looked at Jungkook the way someone looks at a memory they aren't ready to lose. "Then why did you keep choosing silence over me?" Jungkook swallowed hard. "Because I didn't think I deserved you." The words were quiet, raw, shockingly vulnerable. Jimin felt his breath catch. Everything, the tension, the fear, the fighting, suddenly made sense, collapsing into a single truth he had waited too long to hear. He rose slowly, stopping when he was close enough to feel Jungkook's warmth. "You don't get to choose what you think you deserve," Jimin said, gently lifting Jungkook's chin so their eyes met. "You only get to choose whether you're honest with me." Jungkook's lips trembled. "Then let me be honest now." Jimin nodded, waiting. "I stayed because losing you terrifies me more than anything," Jungkook admitted. "But wanting you, needing you, scares me even more. I don't know how to protect something that matters this much." Jimin exhaled shakily, a small, unbelieving laugh slipping out as the tension finally cracked and light came through. "Then don't protect it," he murmured. "Just be here." The door behind them creaked, and both turned to see the members hesitating in the hall. Their faces were a mix of concern, relief, and that familiar brotherly mischief, but tonight they weren't intruding. Tonight, they were witnesses to something that had been breaking the group from the inside without them realizing. Namjoon cleared his throat. "We just wanted to make sure you two weren't murdering each other." Jimin let out a tired laugh. Jungkook rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. "Not tonight." "Good," Taehyung muttered, arms crossed. "Because we're all tired of pretending we don't feel the tension from 3 rooms away." Yoongi raised a brow. "And we're even more tired of watching you two avoid the obvious." Jungkook turned pink. Jimin sighed. "Hyung." But they didn't push any further. They didn't joke, didn't pry. One by one, they simply gave the softest nods, permission, reassurance, acceptance, before stepping back into the hall. When the last footsteps faded, Jimin turned back to Jungkook, who looked overwhelmed, relieved, and terrified all at once. "So," Jimin whispered. "What now?" Jungkook hesitated only a moment before he reached for Jimin's hand. His fingers were cold, trembling slightly, but he didn't pull back. "Now. I stop running." Jimin looked down at their hands, at the space that no longer existed between them. "And me." "You," Jungkook said, voice soft but certain, "just stay with me. Even when I'm a mess. Even when I'm scared." Jimin smiled, a real smile this time, warm as sunrise after a storm. "I've been staying, Jungkook. I just needed you to finally meet me halfway." Jungkook stepped closer, forehead resting gently against Jimin's. The world outside softened into nothingness, the wind, the night, the earlier arguments, everything blurred until only the warmth between them remained. That he whispered, "Then let's start again." Jimin closed his eyes, letting the moment settle deep into him, grounding, healing. "Together," he replied, and for the first time in a long time, the room felt quiet in a way that wasn't suffocating, but safe. Gentle. Whole. The noise that had started everything was gone now, replaced by something steadier, quieter, and infinitely stronger. Not chaos, not fear, just understanding, just peace, just them, and this time, it was enough.